Hey horror fans, thanks for joining me for this review of Night Teeth. Cast and crew information down below, and let's start off with this IMDb plot. A college student moonlighting as a chauffeur picks up two mysterious women for a night of party hopping across LA. But when he uncovers their bloodthirsty intentions and their dangerous, shadowy underworld, he must fight to stay alive. Ooh, alright. So, this is a Netflix movie. You guys catch this on Netflix if you haven't seen it yet. It's a new one, so we'll try to be a little bit spoiler free as possible here. And, before I start jumping into the plot and going down with this one, don't want to make this, Amazon versus Netflix, but, I guess we can do a separate video on that and the type of horror that kind of lands on that. But I think if you're a horror fan and you're kind of going back and forth between the two services, and we're gonna leave Shudder out of this because Shudder is just so much beautiful horror. We're not gonna complain about anything there. But between these two, they're not catering only to horror. They're catering to every movie they can possibly be putting on here. So when they put their horror selections, I think you see a little bit of a difference here in what they put. I think as far as Amazon is concerned, I think if you scroll through it, they have so many titles there, and if you just pick through them, you'll see they seem to basically accept whatever horror movie you want to put on there. Because as much of a horror fan as I am and supporter of it and blah blah blah, there's some bad horror on there. I mean, just stuff that I wish I could come on here and review, but it's just not worth it, and I just can't sit through and whatever. But there's horror for everybody. I'm sure. As much as I might not like some of it, I'm sure there are people that do. And that's why I don't come on here and review the movies that are bad and I don't like. Cause there's no, I don't get any joy out of slandering somebody's work, especially if it's indie horror, who people are just trying, learning and making film and doing what they love. And just because you don't like it doesn't mean you have to come on here and slam it. But again, this is besides the point. But I think what you're seeing here with Netflix is horror movies that are maybe tailored to an audience that might borderline like horror. Like, doesn't have to be totally horror. They don't have to be totally horror fans to like it. Maybe a mix of horror, action, thriller, or some kind of mix. A little bit polished work here that can kind of fall in different ranges, but you're not going to find too much low budget on Netflix, and I don't think they take too much risk in putting that on. There are some really good indie horror. I think like 1BR is a good example of an indie horror project that I believe is still on Netflix, if I'm not mistaken. But there's some good horror on Netflix. Don't mistake me there. But I think this and maybe some of the other movies I've recently reviewed from Netflix, you kind of see it as these movies that maybe you would have made a theater, maybe not, but probably wouldn't have sucked in a lot of horror fans, horror fans that are looking for something that's just more horror to it. Which leads me to Night Teeth. Obviously, you take by the title and what I just read, teeth involved. Yeah, it could have been a monster, could have been, a couple of different things. But I think at the end of the day, you'd have assumed that maybe it could have been an outside chance of a werewolf, but most likely this is vampire, and this is a vampire story. So I think as you watch this movie kind of unfold, and yeah, there are deaths, there's some blood, here and there. There's some fighting, but I think if you're a horror fan, and again, I always say it, if you guys know me, I'm into the blood and guts of the matter here. Uh, it's not narrowing in on that. It's you're not necessarily going to see, the intestines being ripped out here. You are going to see some biting, but you're not really going to get that true effect of the flesh pulling off and that kind of goodness that we'd like to see. And that's kind of what I mean by this kind of being horror for someone who might say they like horror, but maybe not a particular horror fan. Someone who's willing to watch horror, but again, is not considering themselves a horror fan. Maybe someone who's new to horror or just can't stomach the hard stuff. And that's kind of what I mean here. I think a little bit of that kind of goes with the story here too. The kid that they follow, because he's kind of an awkward situation. They kind of had that comedic element. Again, there's nothing wrong with that. I've grown to really like horror comedy. But again, if you're into the serious horror and blood and guts, that kind of takes away from it. So anyway, that's kind of just a disclaimer statement here to start what I'm starting to kind of see. And I don't know if I mentioned on any other review, but I just kind of thought of that as I sat down here to do this, and figured I'd mention it here. But we can have a great debate between Amazon and Netflix horror one day, I guess, if you guys want. Anyway, getting more into this one here again. Let me see what his name is. Benny. This who's followed here. He's a little bit awkward. Young student here, college student, I think they say. Yeah, he's in college. And not the most popular guy. You kind of see that at the beginning. Kind of on the outside of that popular crowd. Obviously, has eyes for someone who's above his range and with someone else. Doesn't really know it, but the world around him involves humans and vampires. He's kind of innocent to that, but he's going to fall into it. His brother kind of runs a chauffeuring service, and he talks him into letting him, chauffeur for the night, make a little extra money, and then kind of just drive around while he studies. And lo and behold, he's going to pick up two women here, who are, again, probably way above his getting, I guess, or whatever you want to call it. He becomes very nervous around them, and you'll see that it's a kind of funny first part when he first meets them. Both girls have a little bit of attitude to them, one probably more than other, and obviously both girls are vampires. I don't think that really, that's a spoiler after reading the opening statement there, the IMDb summary. And I think as soon as you kind of start seeing this unfold, there's no secret there. But basically what happens is he has to drive him around for the night. This isn't kind of like a rideshare kind of movie. I was kind of thinking that we were going to go down that route. But, yeah, there's a lot of driving around, but that's not really, the story here. So, anyway, they tell him right off the bat they have to land in several different places. I think there was 5, 6 in total before the night is out. Again, another clue that they're vampires. They need to be back before the sun rises. And so he's like, okay. So he proceeds to drive. Again, they're two strong-willed women, and they're kind of throwing things at him and making him awkward and nervous as he's driving and so forth, and making him answer questions he doesn't want to answer, or it's kind of weird and awkward answering, and just kind of at their enjoyment mostly. And then they reach the first party, go away and leave him in the car. He's kind of doing his studying thing. Not too much to see here, but they do come out and have some bags, and they throw it in the back, and so forth. And it isn't until they kind of get to the second place and get out that he starts, you know, being a little curious and looking through their stuff and blah blah, and then things start unfolding where maybe he knows now that he's something weird is going on here, and it just gets worse and worse as we go. I again don't want to spoil it since this is a newer film. I think it's been out a couple of weeks now on Netflix. I was a little slow to it. I kind of saw it, but then I was like, and then I was like, okay, I'll give this a chance. Basically, the two girls obviously are vampires, and I'll just say, you know, they have a mission that they're on, and involving the vampire world, their vampire world, and it is gonna, you know, come full circle. There is gonna be, you know, like I said, some involvement with Benny's brother and him and so forth, and a little bit of the story about what's going on here. Again, you know, it's a thing where I guess vampires, you know, have come up with their own rules. There's different factions of vampires and rules on killing and rules about them living amongst themselves and living with the humans, and you know, there's a plot to unravel there. I don't think, you know, trying to be a spoiler free, you know, I'm not going to say that, you know, there's anything greatly new about this. I think, you know, follows in a trail of, you know, what vampires are known as. You know, a little bit of betrayal here, and you know, they'll betray anybody. You know, they'll betray humans, they'll betray each other, blah blah. So I think, you know, that's as much as I'll say is about what's gonna unfold down the road. Obviously, you know, I think, you know, the setup here again, you know, being kind of that friendly to that, you know, maybe horror, non-horror audience. Of course, Benny may or may not like one of the girls. One of the girls may or may not like him, and, you know, I kind of give that away. But I think, you know, again, if you've watched any kind of movie, you're going to assume that, and that's going to play a role in the events that happen here. So with that, I kind of go back to you know, what I want to see out of vampires whenever I see them is I want to see, you know, blood sucking and killing and blah blah. The girls obviously are going to do some fighting here. You're going to see a little bit of it, not as much as you'd want. It's just more about the two girls kind of entertaining and their interaction with Benny a lot in this movie. You're going to see them, you know, come back, maybe have a little blood on them here and there. Like I said, you are going to get a little bit of fighting here. There is a little bit more action, you know, as the movie kind of moves forward. Nothing earth-shattering. Again, you will see, you know, maybe some blood splatter here and there, but we're never going to get back down to the what I mentioned before, is this, you know, the parts getting ripped off and, you know, huge blood-sucking scene and any of that kind of stuff. So, you know, that's always a little disappointing. I always want more there. As far as the story, again, nothing, you know, hugely new here. You know, I wouldn't even call it too many twists and turns. I think if you guys seen enough of these vampires movies, I think you're gonna kind of see. You can kind of see the plot unfolding, and then kind of see what is going to happen and understand what's going to happen. If you've seen any of these kind of movies, I don't think there's anything earth-shattering that's coming at you. Benny has a nice little trick he does at the end, towards the end. And I guess, you know, you just have to see, you know, what the fate of him and the girls are towards the end here. But I think as you're watching this, you're basically going to see and assume what's going to unfold. It's just a matter of, you know, how it exactly happens. I don't think there's any shocks or big twists and turns here. So with all that, and I guess I use this as a platform just to kind of basically say, you know, what the standard Netflix horror is here. I'm gonna give this one, just 2 pools of blood. Like I said, that's out of 5. Again, nothing new or shattering here. An entertaining movie. I don't think it's gonna put you to sleep or anything like that. There's some, it's acting good. There's the surprise appearance. I didn't even know it. Megan Fox. Yeah, it's her. Let me just double check. Yeah, she makes a surprise appearance. I didn't expect to see her in the film. Very brief part, but she makes an appearance. Maybe a few other people you may or may not recognize. So the acting is fine. Like I said, it's just very kind of standard. You have it's a fun interaction between Benny and the 2 girls mostly. I don't think it's gonna bore you or anything like that. But just very standard. Like I said, there's just no huge surprise here. And as far as the blood and guts, it's just not as much as I would want. But if you're kind of that new horror fan or looking for something that's not going to be over the top, blood and guts, or not necessarily going to scare you out of your seats, maybe this is for you. So yeah, two pools of blood. It is what it is. It's not a bad movie. Just nothing for I think a bigger horror fan or big time horror fan. I guess I don't know, whatever you want to call it. So with that, horrorgory-reviews.blogspot.com is where you can find more of my reviews. Written ones are there. The video ones are posted there as well. But if you're just interested in the video ones, obviously subscribe to the channel. Trying to continue to give you guys the mix, a little bit of Netflix, a little bit of Amazon, some Shudder. But Shudder, if you're wondering where my Shudder reviews are, I tend to write those reviews more because I usually get them in advance. So those I tend to write. So if you're wondering why doesn't he do any video reviews of Shudder movies, those are usually written. So you can go again over to the blog and check that out. And then reviews here or there of other stuff sometimes that I get a view of and I feel like bringing it to you guys. Twitter, Facebook, information down below as well. If you want to talk about this movie, other movies, horror in general, happy to do so. And obviously the comment section below if you want to comment on Amazon, Netflix movies there. This video, this movie. If you want me to review anything that you have, you can reach out to me there as well. In the comment section, Twitter, Facebook, wherever. Reach out to me, and if I can do it, I'd be happy to. Usually always busy, but we'll see. Anyway, we'll wrap this up. Again, that was Night Teeth, and again, you can find this on Netflix, if I haven't said that for 100 times. And I guess I will catch you on the next review, horror fans.